Hello, and welcome back to Soundsphere and Soundsphere Comics, because we're live there too. Graham has frozen. What an excellent start. You froze a little bit there, dude. But we are here to talk about James Gunn's DC slate. That's right, the projects that James Gunn will be associated with in his first run with DC. The first 10 projects that include Superman, Batman, and Green Lantern, and so many more. And we'll be back with that right after, with all the information, all the good stuff, right after our fantastic Comic Sphere introduction made by our Jay Sillins, who couldn't be here tonight but wishes he could be. Anyway, see you guys in a sec. Yeah, there you go. Isn't that nice? Isn't that a nice intro? It's so fancy.
I love the intro. Yeah.
It's so fancy. It's great. So, Graham, how are you doing? How are you feeling about this? Are you excited?
Yeah. I'm a bit out of sorts today. I'm a bit tired. But no, when I first saw the news of what we would be getting from James Gunn and Peter Safran, what his name is? Safran? I'm half asleep. I was very pumped. Like, The Authority in particular is one of my favorite books. And they're a bit sort of, I wouldn't say underground, but like most people have never heard of The Authority. They're one of those superhero teams that most people have never come across, and I'm a huge fan. It's a Wildstorm product that DC ended up buying, but we'll talk about that later on. But yeah, now very, very, very excited. I've not read the Supergirl series that the Supergirl movie is going to be based on, but it is written by Tom King, and I love Tom King, so that's always a good thing. Yeah, I'm very, very excited.
Going to be an exciting time for sure for DC fans and comic book fans as well. So what we're going to do, guys, is we're going to run through, for those that are with us now, for those that come back to this video, we are going to run through the 10 projects. And Graham, our resident comic expert, who is downing that Red Bull like it's going out of fashion. Are you okay? Are you going to die? Are you all right?
Fine. I've had a very busy night and day, but I'm good.
So you're surviving on Red Bull. That's healthy.
Yeah.
We love to promote a healthy lifestyle on Soundsphere.
I never drink it unless I need it, and today I do need it. But I'm good. I'm good.
Okay. Well, I'm glad you could be here. So, excuse me. Talking about healthy lifestyles. So, Graham, we're going to run through the 10 projects. I'm potentially, for myself, I'm going to leave the best to last for me. But we're going to start with one of them, which is an animated HBO Max show, and that's going to be Creature Commandos. Tell me what you know about Creature Commandos. What are your thoughts on it? Are you looking forward to it, or are you a bit meh?
I'm not really looking forward to it that much. I think, I mean, it's good, I suppose. It's one of those things that I could be surprised by. I don't know. I don't think it's going to be based on the original series from, was it 1980? I think it'll be a more modern take on it, possibly inspired by the Tim, what's his name? Sorry, I'm half asleep. I should know this. I can't remember his name now.
It's okay. So inspired by another version.
Yeah, I think the more modern version, like the 2000s sort of era version. Okay. Rather, because a lot of people think that because it was set during World War II. A lot of people think it was from World War II. It's not. It was from 1980. Tim Truman, that's what I'm thinking of. I think it'll be based on his run rather than the original. But that's just a guess. I don't know. I'm not an insider. I don't know these things. I'm just guessing.
Okay. So on a scale of 1 to 10, what is your excitement for this?
3.
Okay. Fair enough. Now, the next one is one that people will know a little bit more about. We have seen this character in the Suicide Squad films, in the Peacemaker series, and obviously a notable, I believe she's in the video game as well, the forthcoming Suicide Squad video game. So a notable character in popular culture, and that is Waller, which will be a series based on Amanda Waller. With here's where my knowledge of the performer playing Amanda Waller, I'll find out for you. It is played by
It's Viola Davis, isn't it?
Viola Davis. Thank you.
Viola Davis.
That's what I was going for, yeah. So
Yeah.
Viola Davis is playing Amanda Waller. This series is again going to be more known to the wider population because of the character and the character's presence in the wider DC universe already, Graham. Your excitement then for this show, a standalone Amanda Waller show, what are we gonna see here? Because she's only been portrayed as a very ruthless, dark, well, not so dark, but very ruthless, kind of evil character, I would say, so far.
Yeah, I think one of the things that James Gunn let slip in recent months is that they're modelling the new, what they're calling DC Universe or DCU, on the old DC animated universe, of which Amanda Waller did actually play quite a big role in. Particularly in Justice League Unlimited. I don't know if you've seen that.
I'm not. I'd love to. It's on my list,
should.
though.
You
it's
should.
On my list.
So good. It is actually genuinely very, very good. In that, she is. She's played a bit like how she's played in the old DCEU, but she is also a very good person at heart, and you do see that. And I like how her, is it niece, I think, in Suicide Squad, in
Peacemaker. Yeah, she's great. We just rewatched that, actually. Well, me and Emma just started rewatching Peacemaker. I can't remember who Adebayo is the character, but played by a very talented actor, performer, and I'm just trying to remember Danielle Brooks.
See, I thought when I first watched Peacemaker that they might retcon it so she was the new Amanda Waller, because she looks like, and I don't want to like be disrespectful or anything like that, but her body type is more akin to Amanda Waller in the comics.
Okay, cool.
Quite,
yes,
yeah, akin to myself. So I was kind of expecting that to happen, but it didn't. But to be fair, Viola Davis is a really, really good actor, and I'm really excited to see more of it. I think this is one of the aspects of the old DCEU that you can tell Peter Safran was more involved with, because a lot of his stuff's been cherry picked to carry on over, if that makes sense. You've got Aquaman, Shazam, who were his products that they do seem to be carrying over into the new universe, as do elements of the Suicide Squad, or Suicide Squad, then the Suicide Squad and Peacemaker and stuff like that. So some stuff seems to be cherry picked to carry over.
Yeah,
and a lot of the Suicide Squad appears to be. And we did get a sort of soft reboot with the Suicide Squad, but Amanda Waller's involvement carried over, which it should do. And we got a new cast and stuff like that. I'm excited to see more of this, because I think this will be a continuation of Peacemaker for now. I believe it is, it's set between Peacemaker Series 1 and Series 2.
Oh, cool.
And we're not gonna get Peacemaker Series 2 for a while now, because James Gunn apparently has other things to do. So this will be like a sort of bridge into the next part of that universe, if that makes sense.
Okay. And as a fan, then, Graham, what do you scale of 1 to 10? How much are you looking forward to this series?
8.
An 8.
I think it'll be interesting to see what, because Suicide Squad has become, James Gunn's new sort of playbox. That was his starting the DC world, and I think it'll be interesting to see what someone else does with what he's expanded upon himself. If that makes sense.
Yeah, yeah. I'm excited too personally, because most of the DC stuff that I'm into revolves around, in some way, indirectly, Amanda Waller. Next on the list, then, Graham, I believe you're pretty excited about this, and that's Superman Legacy. Your thoughts on this one, then, Graham? Again, from my understanding, you're pretty buzzed about the potential of Superman Legacy.
Very. You've just teased a quick picture there. If you recall, a couple of weeks ago, James Gunn posted a tweet, basically with an open book on his desk and a cup of coffee, and he said, "Oh, morning reading" or something like that. There we go. There it is. And I immediately recognised that, because that is All Star Superman by Grant Morrison, Frank Quitely, Jamie Grant, all Scottish, based in Glasgow, and it's essentially a British Superman story. And a lot of people don't like Superman because some of his stories are very bland. That one is probably the best ever. Am I allowed to spoil it? We don't know how much this is going to be in the film.
Okay, go for it.
Essentially, Superman finds out that he's dying, and he's got a year to live. So his perspective on everything changes, and he tries to make as much time for the little people as he does the big people, and like you see him like preventing a little girl's suicide, and loads of stuff. It's really, really well written. Lots of famous bits about it. I've got a copy of it here. So what James Gunn was reading was the deluxe edition, which is like an oversized hardcover, like omnibus sized. I have the absolute edition here, which is a big A4 slipcase edition.
Wow. Okay.
It's beautiful. It is easily my favorite Superman story, followed fairly closely by For All Seasons. It's just very, very good. And fun fact, the design of Superman was based on Desperate Dan.
Yeah, I can see that, actually. Yeah.
It's a Scottish book. You just don't realise it. There's an animated film based on it, but it's good. But they missed out a lot of the main story because they had to cram it into. I want to say it was like an hour and a half.
Right.
And essentially, when you read it, it's you're meant to sort of read it in real time as it was coming out. So it'd be like each issue was roughly a month, then you'd wait a month, then you'd read the next issue, and it was meant to be a real year. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
He finds out at the beginning that he's got cancer and he is going to die, and there's nothing they can do. And then he spends the rest of the year sort of coming to terms with it, helping people, preparing the world. It's an Elseworld story. We'll talk about that word in a bit as well. It's not set in the main DC universe because obviously, Superman does die in it. But it's a beautiful book. I'm just going to open it up a second.
Yeah, do. Yeah. I love this is where I love having you on these things, man. Your enthusiasm is infectious.
It's so good.
You sound very excited about this.
I'm very excited. I'm a big Grant Morrison fan, and I was freaking out just because I thought James Gunn is clearly a Grant Morrison fan. We've got something in common, and I thought if he can adapt one Grant Morrison story, I would be over the moon. Especially a Grant Morrison story with Frank Quitely art, because I love Frank Quitely as well. I dearly love Frank Quitely's. Well, I've got 2 Frank Quitely tattoos. I've got one All Star Superman one there. Look.
Oh, there you go. Yeah.
There you go. Can you see that?
Yeah.
And that is the suicide scene that I briefly mentioned. You've probably seen it on the internet because it does get shared quite a lot, but it's out of context, and it's this little girl that is facing the end of her life, and she's petrified, and she's tried calling a doctor, and the doctor's too busy to answer, and she climbs up on top of the building, and she's ready to jump, and Superman gets up there, and as she's there, he puts his hand on her shoulder and says, the doctor really was busy. He comforts her and they have a hug. It's a beautiful moment, and I would love to see that on film. The thing that worries me about the film is that James Gunn has said that it's the first of the new universe.
Right.
and they clearly want a younger actor than Henry Cavill. Whereas, having read the story, I'm just flicking through it now. Having read the story, it's a story about the end of Superman's life.
Mm.
And although it's not really set in the main proper universe, and there we go. There's the page I'm talking about.
Oh yeah, beautiful.
Yeah, you've probably seen that. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Beautiful, beautiful story. Although it's not strictly, canon to the main DC universe, it's do you know what I mean?
I do, yeah, I do. So it's going to be an interesting one to see adapted to the film universe, and a beautiful story. I mean, I'm pretty sure
Absolutely.
I know the answer to this one already, Graham. But if you can give this one a grade out of 10, for your excitement for Superman Legacy, what is that grade going to be?
I want to say 10, but it would be a 10 if it was going to be the end of the DC expanded universe and it was going to be Henry Cavill.
Right. Okay.
But it's not, so I'm going to say 9.
Okay.
I think that story would be a perfect ending to Henry Cavill Superman. Like I would love to see Justice League 2 and Justice League 3 and a full proper Flashpoint movie, but that's obviously not going to happen. So to me, All-Star Superman on screen with Henry Cavill, just having a movie of like heartfelt goodbyes and everything, I think that'd be beautiful. But it's not going to happen, and they're going to make it so he doesn't die at the end because it's the start of a series.
Right. Okay. Okay.
So 9.
So they are messing with the source material a little bit.
I'm presuming so. I don't think they've really got much choice.
No.
If it's unless I think it'd be crazy, but I wouldn't put it past James Gunn. If the only Superman movie they do, they kill him off.
Yeah, that could be. Yeah, I could see that potentially. Potentially they could kill him off in his first outing in the new DC universe, but that is a solid 9 for you, Graham, with Waller having an 8 and Creature Commandos having a 3. We're moving on now to Lanterns. Now, Lanterns is an interesting one. Obviously, not the best track record in a TV or movie sort of world. What can we expect, Graham, from Lanterns? And is that something that you are particularly, are you going to be enamored with Lanterns as a TV show, as part of this new universe?
I'm kind of excited for it and kind of not. I think when the Green Lanterns TV series was first announced, it was headed by Jeff Johns, and Jeff Johns, he wrote a massive epic. You can see it if I point there. Can you see it? I've got a shelf full of Green Lantern by Jeff Johns. He wrote this massive epic, and there's Blackest Night, Brightest Day, loads. The Sinestro Corps War. It's a massive multi-year project that he wrote, and there wasn't a bad issue throughout the entire thing. It was really good. It was quite similar to the more modern Guardians of the Galaxy run. It was like epic in scale. It was Marvel's cosmic baby, right. And it was really good. And the fact that Jeff Johns is just as comfortable writing for TV and film as he is for comics, I thought he was intended to write Green Lantern, and just like he did Stargirl. He wrote Stargirl, the TV series, and he created the comic book character based on his sister who tragically passed away. So I thought Green Lantern is going to be great. If it's Jeff Johns, perfect. They seem to have scrapped that, and they're going in a different direction. And on one hand, I'm really excited because it's Hal Jordan and Jon Stewart, and anyone that's seen the Justice League and Justice League Unlimited cartoons will love Jon Stewart. Jon Stewart's like the underdog of all the different human Green Lanterns. Everyone always talks about Alan Scott, co-created by Bill Finger, the original, now incorporated into the LGBT after his creator character, who's not the same as the actual Green Lantern Corps. You know, it was very different origin. Everyone knows Hal Jordan, you know, from Ryan Reynolds.
Yeah, that you see that, you know, I know of the Green Lantern as a comic book character and obviously in popular culture, but yeah, that was my first exposure really to the character. But it seems like with James Gunn, they're going to steer away. Well, you know, with what they know now about how to do Green Lantern, they're going to steer away from anything like that.
See, I do think if Jeff Johns was in charge of it, it would, you know, it could be a 10-hour, you know, HBO Max epic thing, like Game of Thrones level epicness. And Jeff Johns knows how to do it. He can write, you know, team stories really, really well. He can write personal stories really, really well. Blackest Night, you know, he brought back from the dead almost every single DC character that was dead. He brought them all back to life for this big event, and it was perfect. It was so well written. The guy's a genius. He knows how to write. He's probably one of the best writers DC have ever had. I think the only thing that lets Jeff Johns down is that his Marvel work wasn't as great, but it's still really good, you know. Yeah, I think with it, that there seem to have been like that. There seem to be like sort of bringing it back a bit and concentrating on Hal Jordan and John Stewart, and I think it would be a good starting point to build on it and build to a big Jeff Johns style Green Lantern event. And it does allude to it that they've said that it's, you know, it's them two working as sort of detectives and they uncover a big secret, which to me says maybe Blackest Night.
Okay.
I would love to see Blackest Night
Cool
on screen. That would be cool as hell, you know, and they could have a lot of fun with it, you know, because I would have thought a Blackest Night event would be more towards the end of life of a universe like that on screen, like a sort of Avengers Endgame level event, if that makes sense. You know, a good 20 years after the start of it, where they can, you know, bring basically, right, the concept of Blackest Night is that they bring back from the dead all the DC heroes and villains, and they resurrect them as sort of like zombie creatures using black lantern rings.
Yeah, I've seen it alluded to and referenced a bunch of times. Yeah,
it's very, very, very good. I think that would work if it happened in 20 years' time, and it, you know, they might do that. I would love to see that happen. I think starting off as, I don't know if it's going to be like a buddy cop sort of thing.
right.
I don't know, but it's going to be Hal Jordan and John Stewart teaming up to solve crime by the sound of it. I don't know if it's going to be, you know, mega cosmic or quite grounded on Earth. I don't know. I'm excited for it because I do like John Stewart. I do like Hal Jordan. Hal Jordan's been done dirty, you know, and deserves to shine properly.
Yeah,
But he's a bit Boy Scouty, and, you know, people don't like that nowadays. Whereas John Stewart is, you know, a black guy who plays basketball and doesn't take any shit, and he's great. You know, so I would love to see that on screen. I'm really looking forward to it. I think they're missing a trick slightly by not having Jessica Cruz in there. But I think they're doing well to not have Guy Gardner. So
okay. So you're particularly excited about this one, Graham. Once again, you know, give me that grade out of 10. You know, again, particularly that
7.
enthusiasm. 7. Okay, so a little less.
I am excited for it, but I'm not. I'm not going to hold my breath. I think it would have been so much better had Jeff Johns been involved still.
Okay.
But
Well, fingers crossed. I think a lot of people are going to be very interested to see how they reintroduce, certainly in wider popular culture, the Lanterns property after Ryan Reynolds' questionable attempt. Bless him. We're going to move. I'd planned a different one next, but we're going to save the best to last. We're going to move on to Paradise Lost. Now, when I think of Paradise Lost, I think of something very different. I think of, you know, there's literature. Yeah. So this was the first time I'd ever heard of a DC property under the name Paradise Lost. In my research, obviously, it seems to be again. It's going to be a collection. There's going to be a collection of characters based around the Wonder Woman sort of franchise, from what I can gather. What do you understand of Paradise Lost? Because from what I read, it's the origins or there and thereabouts of the Wonder Woman character.
I think what it'll end up being is a reboot of Wonder Woman, but they're going to do it in such a way that it's, however many 100 years ago. I'm guessing maybe about 2,000 years ago, 1,000 years ago, something like that. Paradise Lost has been used by the title has been used by DC a few times. There was I keep referring to the Justice League animated series because James Gunn did say that he wanted to base this new universe on the success of that, on the dynamic of it. There was a 2-part episode of the original Justice League series, I think it was series 1, called Paradise Lost, Justice League Paradise Lost. And that was loosely based on another comic called Paradise Lost. They do like to use certain things, over and over again, and Paradise Lost is one of them. And there is elements of John Milton in there. Interestingly, it's about like it's sort of god people, gods and mythical things that you'd expect to read in literature, but
Right.
it's set in the DC universe. It is. I would recommend watching Justice League anyway, but the actual episode Paradise Lost is well worth it. I think what this will be is it's a series, isn't it?
Yeah, it's a series.
I think it's going to be a very high budget, complete reboot of Wonder Woman. I do wonder if they're going to make Wonder Woman now more a series than a film.
Okay.
But they did say as well that they're going to streamline it so you'll get series and then animated series, an animated film, and then like cinematic film, and it'll all be the same character, all be the same actors, which I think is quite interesting because that's not really what Marvel have done. And up until now, DC seems to have been trying to sort of emulate the Marvel, the MCU formula.
Yeah, I think so.
And I think James Gunn and Peter Safran have just gone, now we're going to do our own thing, and we're going to, rightly or wrongly, go against the grain and do their own thing. And I think it's an interesting idea. But I think fundamentally, Paradise Lost is going to be a reboot of Wonder Woman, and it's going to be very Themyscira, very, origin of the Amazon warriors, the Amazons, everything. I think it'll be. I'm looking forward to it. I am looking forward to it. I don't know. I really like Gal in the DC EU. I think she was great. I think Wonder Woman 84 wasn't perfect, but I did like it. I thought it was a good film. I know a lot of people didn't, but yeah, I don't know. I don't want them to, remove her because she was perfect for that role.
Yeah, no, she was fantastic. Gal Gadot. I couldn't think of anybody else in that Wonder Woman role, Graham. But yeah, getting through that then and sort of giving your viewpoint there in terms of your excitement. If you were to put a grade on, on Paradise Lost, this show going to center around the origins and the history of the Wonder Woman character. What is your excitement level out of 10? Do you think
7? I think
7? That's strong.
One thing that I think the DC movies have done well, certainly more than Marvel, up until recently, is that they've had a really good array of female-led films. With Marvel, you had Elektra back in the day, and then they were umming and ahhing about a Black Widow film for years, and eventually did it. But I think they only did it out of like peer pressure from DC. But DC, there was loads of them. Some of them were garbage, like Catwoman. But then you also had Harley Quinn led films like Suicide Squad, Birds of Prey. There was quite a few. And I think one thing that they do well is female led movies to an extent, not all of them, but certainly in recent years. And I think Wonder Woman and Themyscira and the whole concept, I think what it was proven with the Wonder Woman movie, it's too much for a film. It's too. They explained Themyscira in a couple of flashbacks, and it's not enough to flesh it out. And even Patty Jenkins was going to do a full prequel. I think it was going to be a series as well, and then it changed into a film. But it was going to be like a full project of its own, but showing you the world where Wonder Woman comes from.
Yeah, well, that was what I thought, because I was Anthony's popped in. Give me a hug, yeah. There you go, nice t-shirt plug. Sort of saying, isn't Paradise Lost a long time before Gal? And yeah, I always thought every one of those of those characters and those people had the powers of Wonder Woman. They were all Wonder Woman-esque. It was all they were a tribe of Wonder Woman. So it doesn't necessarily have to involve Gal Gadot.
What I would say is, I think you've got a really good point, but what you've got to remember is Wonder Woman is essentially immortal.
Yeah, okay.
Even in the Wonder Woman movie, she is 1,000 years old-ish, give or take. She doesn't she ages to a point and then she stays that level, forever. She can die, she can get, shot and she's dead, but she's not going to age any, if that makes sense. So I would presume that a series based on Themyscira 1,000 years ago or whatever it is would still have Wonder Woman in it. And I think it would be very unwise of them to do a movie about that era, that setting, without having Wonder Woman in there.
Yeah, a notable character.
Yeah, I think if they're going to do it, they're going to do it so Wonder Woman is a character, a prominent character, but not the character. It's going to be like an ensemble thing, and it's going to soft reboot the Wonder Woman franchise. And I don't want it to, because I do love Gal Gadot. She's she was born to play Wonder Woman, and
so incredible. I think it would be a poor move again with thinking about the wider sort of pop culture, and how Gal Gadot is so associated with that role. It would be a shame, I think, in terms of sort of attracting people to the show, not to at least reference Gal or feature in some form.
On a very quick note, I think one of the things that the DCEU got right was a lot of the casting was nailed. And I know some bits weren't overly well received, like Lex Luthor and Joker, wasn't massively popular. But some of the casting was incredible. Jason Momoa was not what you'd expect as an Aquaman, but he was perfect. Gal Gadot was, I can't think of anybody alive that could play a better, Wonder Woman. I think she was born for it. Do you know what I mean?
I agree.
And I think a lot of the biggest regret I've got about the DCEU is we never got to see the Flashpoint Batman and Joker, and that was planted in one of the films, and nothing ever came of it. But we can talk about that at the end if you want.
Yeah, and we will talk about that. We are going to move on to another exciting thing that I've sort of, again, it was the first time I've really encountered this, and that is Booster Gold, Graham. Now, this character looks like a lot of fun from my research, but I've never heard, to my discredit, of Booster Gold. I don't know who he is. I don't know what he does, and it's certainly not, to warrant a whole show. So this is going to be very much an introduction, I imagine, to a lot of people. So Booster Gold, Graham, can you tell me a bit more about him and why people should care about a show centering around this character?
I want to kind of disagree with you a little bit. I think that a lot of people will know who Booster Gold is because of his appearances on Smallville and Legends of Tomorrow. But I will admit, I've not seen that far into Legends of Tomorrow, so I don't know what his portrayal is like. But a quick summary of Booster Gold's character is basically he's a regular guy from the future who uses contemporary technology, goes back in time, uses that technology to become a superhero in today's time because he's such a loser in the future, right? So already you're thinking, oh, that's an interesting concept, surely.
Yeah.
It's good. In the comics, depending on which comic you read, my favorite Booster Gold story is 52, which is, it's not really a Booster Gold story. It's a massive year-long event. Really quick, I'll explain it to you. You can't see it on my shelf. No, you can. Oh God, I can't do that.
It's on the It's on the shelf.
There. It's that blue and white one there.
Okay. Yeah. Okay.
Basically, it was directly after Infinite Crisis. You got Jeff Johns, Grant Morrison, Mark Waid, a bunch of superstar writers, quite a few artists. Keith Giffen was one of the people overseeing it, and all these writers came in, and they all wrote different sections of a weekly comic book that lasted a full year. And what the idea was, in the aftermath of Infinite Crisis, Batman wasn't there, Superman wasn't there, Wonder Woman wasn't there. Your main three, your holy trinity of the DC universe were gone. And it's what the world did without them.
Right.
If that makes sense. And Grant Morrison, in their part, set up their big Batman run. Superman was there. Clark Kent was there, but he didn't have his powers. He lost his powers for a year.
Okay.
Right? And in response to Superman not being in, because Clark Kent was there, Superman wasn't. He's not going to put the outfit on and then jump off a building and crash and fall and die. So he's still Clark Kent, he's still a reporter, but there's no Superman.
Right.
And in response to that, Booster Gold from the future knows that Superman's not there. He goes back in time. He tries to be a hero, but he can't do it. So what he does is he sets up these elaborate problems for him to solve, like these fake villains. He'll pay villains to do this and that and the other, and he'll take them down, and to try and give himself this big ego boost.
Right.
It's if the new project based on Booster Gold is anything like that, I'm going to love it. It'll be good. It'll be funny.
Yeah. It sounds like someone trying. Yeah, it sounds like it's a story based on someone trying to be a hero. And
he's a complete and utter loser. He's got like a little robot dude. I've forgotten his name.
Oh, that sounds fantastic.
It will be good. I love Booster Gold. He's a great, in the comics. He's hilarious. He's created by Dan Jurgens, who's a very good writer. It'll just be funny. I think it'll be great. I think, especially if someone like James Gunn is doing it. Right. If James Gunn writes it, that is exactly his style. Okay. Exactly his style. If you go back up and you look at James Gunn's other stuff, like what's that film called with Rainn Wilson? I'm going mad. I've not.
Right.
For context, I've had 3 hours sleep.
It's okay.
I know what I mean. It was compared to Kick-Ass. It came out about the same time as Kick-Ass, but it wasn't Kick-Ass. I know what I mean. Or James Gunn did the Scooby-Doo movies, the live-action ones. It's that sort of thing.
Right. So it's kind of like a Peacemaker type vibe. In a sort of way. Yeah. So for those interested, okay.
Look, if it's anything like that, I will be over the moon, and I do hope to lean into the 52 elements of it.
Okay. Cool.
If they took out all of the Booster Gold story from 52 and just had that as a film, I think that would be great. I would like to see Booster Gold and Blue Beetle team up as well, and we do have a Blue Beetle movie coming out in a few months. It'll be interesting to see if that is going to get carried on into this new DCU, or if it's just the remnants of a forgotten era that we're going to see, and then it's going to disappear.
Yeah, I imagine
it depends on the reception of it, I guess.
Yeah, I imagine there will be some continuity. They do like that. In DC, from what I've seen, there are elements of continuity, or there have been, perhaps not to the level of Marvel, but there've been some continuity between series and things like that.
His robot's called Skeets.
Okay, cool.
I think Skeets will steal the show, and I think I'd like to see Rip Hunter in it as well. There's a lot of I don't know. I can just see it being really, really good. I would love to see Booster Gold like on screen successful. I think
Yeah.
it'd be great. I think if it's James Gunn's sort of humor, but Scooby Doo rating, so kids can go and see it, and it's not like your Deadpool. If it's brought down to not being Suicide Squad, but it's like more kid friendly, I
Yeah.
think it worked really, really well. And I
Yeah.
think it's got the opportunity to be slapstick and genuinely funny.
Yeah, I think it'll translate really well. Like you say, I think that could really work, and maybe the same for the Blue Beetle film, which is obviously coming out, as you mentioned. Anthony is in, and once again, thank you for those that have joined us and those that will join us after we finish up today. It's a pleasure having you with us. Anthony says James Gunn is excellent at taking lesser known characters and making something engaging. Yeah, I think that's true, Graham.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. I think I can't show you it because it's on a bookcase in front of me rather than behind me. But I've got the Dan Abnett, Andy Lanning Guardians of the Galaxy run, which lasted a good few years. And on my shelf, it's that many books, and it's the whole Guardians of the Galaxy epic with Annihilation, Conquest, War of Kings. It's all the big storylines and crossovers that they did together, and
Yeah,
that's what James Gunn read and then put onto screen. And when they first said, "Oh, we're going to do Guardians of the Galaxy," I thought, really? I thought, great, because it's a great story, great characters, but really, you're not going to have Groot surely on like in the MCU. That it's not going to. At the time when they first started the MCU, I thought Iron Man and Hulk and Captain America. No offense to them, but they are B-list heroes when you compare them to Wolverine and Spider-Man.
yeah, I
I
agree.
mean,
Yeah,
they essentially are, maybe not anymore, but at the time, they were the lesser known. Like they were like the B team of Marvel heroes. The Avengers is a lot more popular in America than it is over here. But over here, in particular, your big Marvel heroes are the X-Men, Spider-Man.
of
They're
course.
the Spider-Man's the ultimate Marvel hero. You know, um, and I knew that the MCU was getting more and more successful as it went on. But when they first announced Guardians of the Galaxy, I thought, really?
Yeah.
I couldn't picture. I thought, it's a great story, but is it going to work as a film? And the one person that I trust to make a lesser known team, because Guardians of the Galaxy was always lesser known.
Mhm.
I think the one person that I could trust to turn that into a film is James Gunn, and I think James Gunn could do a terrific job with Booster Gold.
Yeah, I'm very excited for it, and I didn't have much affinity with the character, also knowledge of the character before we started this stream. So Graham, your grade then out of 10 in terms of how excited you are for a Booster Gold show for us to see, for what am I trying to say, for everyone to see, a Booster Gold show for everyone to see. I'm obviously tired too.
Purely because he's such an interesting and funny character. 25th century Gotham City, poor nobody. I just think it's going to be so funny, and I want it 9.
All right, cool. That's wicked. That's
I
wicked.
can't
So
wait. I really can't wait.
awesome. So rivaling that Superman effort there. Brilliant. Okay, well we've got a few more to go. I think we've got 4 more to cover before we finish up, or maybe 3. No, it is 4. I can count. I promise. We're gonna do Supergirl next. I do apologize. Supergirl, Woman of Tomorrow, which is going to be a film. I think there's a guarantee to these types of films, Graham, that they're going to be a box office success. Supergirl. I think there's been attempts at series and things like that before, and character portrayals. But how are you rating a film and the potential of a film?
Well, I mean, I think we've all seen the Supergirl movie, haven't we?
Yeah, back in the day, yeah.
Yeah, back in the day, and it wasn't great, but that was in an era where the Marvel movie didn't exist, and the DC movies up until that point had been. I think at that point we'd had Superman and I think a Swamp Thing movie, and then before that, like the old serials and stuff. I think Supergirl is overdue an adaptation of some sort. she's a really interesting character. A lot of people, will think, oh yeah, she's just Superman's cousin. She's not just Superman's cousin. I think the best origin of her that I've read was by Jeff Loeb in the Batman Superman series. Jeff Loeb went on after that to write co-created, wrote, produced Heroes, the TV series. He was the Marvel TV guy for a number of years. All the Netflix Marvel stuff, that was all him. He went on to be quite a big deal. And his version of Supergirl's origin, I think, is the ultimate one. And it's just really, really good. But it relies on Superman being already very established. Superman was, in his 40s, I think, in that comic, when Supergirl comes down to Earth, speaking Kryptonian, no one knows what she's on about, and Batman tries to stop her, and he recognizes the Kryptonian that she's talking, and he calls in Superman. He's like, there's an alien out here, and she's naked, and she's got blonde hair, and what do we do? And I think that'd be really good. The one thing I will say is that they have said that this this Supergirl movie is going to be based on the Tom King story, and I've not read it. And I do like Tom King, but I've just not got around to reading it yet. So I can't really comment on it. But the thing with Tom King is, some people don't really like him that much because the way he writes, it's quite slow.
Okay.
Right. And he's better at. If you read his stories like as they come out in single issue form, you might get an issue where it's just people talking and then that's it. And a lot of people really didn't like that. He was behind the controversial Batman and Catwoman wedding that didn't happen in issue 50 of the Rebirth series. So a lot of people don't like him and the prejudice against Tom King because of his writing style. But if you read it in books after it's already out, it reads brilliantly.
Right. So it's more like a collector's thing, where you collect everything. Okay.
And the thing with Tom King is he's ex-CIA, ex-military, quite senior. I think he was a hostage negotiator in Iraq. He's got this incredible background. And, he came out of the military and went straight into writing comics. And, like his it's incredible. Like genuinely, like you look up his backstory and you think, yeah, hell, he's gone from like literally negotiating over people's lives to writing Batman with PTSD. And it's phenomenal. Tom King has written some crazy stuff. There was a Batman and Bugs Bunny crossover that he wrote.
What?
Which which is incredible and very mature for what you'd expect it to be. He wrote Mr. Miracle. He wrote he's wrote loads of stuff, and everything I've read of his, I think, is a masterpiece. And Supergirl by Tom King is one of the things on my to-read list. And had I known that this was going to be announced, I would have read it before now. I've just been biding my time, thinking I'm going to read it eventually. I do like Supergirl. I do like Tom King. It's a match made in heaven. He's such a good writer. And he projects a lot of his personal demons into his stories. Like I say, with Batman having PTSD and stuff like that. It's incredibly well written, incredibly well thought out. And I'm very excited to read that book. And I can't pass judgment on the series, the film, until I've read the book that is going to be based on. But, yeah, I'm excited.
But based on that, then again, if you could give a grade again, if you're sort of looking at, I guess, your anticipation to read the book and what has been promised at this early stage, again, can you give me a grade out of 10 for your excitement, Graham?
Based purely on the fact that it's Supergirl and purely on the fact that it's Tom King, because Tom King is a phenomenal writer, I'm going to say 7.
Fantastic. Okay, these are pretty high grades for you, Graham.
I am excited. Like, I think Creature Commandos is the only one that I'm not that bothered about.
Yeah. Certainly, is the lowest one we've scored so far. In terms of So we've got that grade there. There's a couple of comments, and I was going to leave these till the end, but I do appreciate Anthony is with us, and there's some interesting points. So going back to a couple of comments where he says that people didn't realize what a B-player Iron Man was until they had success with the movies. Never felt they got his demon in a bottle storyline done well on film. So again, Anthony making a point there that it isn't actually till the film sometimes that these characters gain such a life in pop culture.
I think he's completely right, Anthony. You're completely right about the demon in the bottle storyline, because that, in my opinion, that was the best Iron Man story by miles, and the closest they got to it in the MCU is he's seen having a drink, and it's alluded to that he might be an alcoholic, and that storyline was very controversial, but incredibly well written. Especially at the time, it was very controversial. It was a kid's book, and it was talking about alcoholism and dependency, and Tony Stark going crazy. Essentially drinking is a drug, and he was addicted to it. And it's like phenomenal story. And on the MCU, you just see him having a drink, and you see him like looking at it funny. As a fan, you look at it and you think, that's demon in a bottle, and then that's it. It's just skipped over completely, and you don't see any of it anymore. And it's a shame, because not only would it make a really good story, but it's also like it would teach people, like it like show awareness to what is a very real problem in this world.
Mm-hmm.
And like alcoholism is never portrayed in a promising light. You don't get that sort of problem on TV or film where it's dealt with properly. Generally, you do sometimes, but if someone's an alcoholic in a film, generally they're the bad guy.
Yeah, of course.
Not the good guy. It's not someone trying to overcome it and beat the demons and go on to be a better person. It's generally the bad guy. The bad guy's drinks too much whiskey and has anger problems. It's not the good guy. And I think the world does need to know that the good guy can also have problems as well. And if you have a problem yourself, you shouldn't beat yourself up over it.
Yeah.
Seek help. And I think Marvel having a storyline like that would do the world good. And it's a shame that they missed it.
Yeah, it's an interesting point. I'd certainly love to see that. I would be more invested in an Iron Man character. I've not really been invested in Iron Man in pop culture for many years, and I would be really interested in a character like that. Moving on to another character that obviously people were excited about to transition to the main screen, of course, was The Rock, Dwayne Johnson's Black Adam. Anthony makes a point that we made some interesting statements about box office success and how characters do translate from the comics to screen. Talk about how Black Adam wasn't a box office success, which shocked Anthony. Did that shock? I guess it shocked me as well, but I guess that's because of the wider appeal, I think, of Dwayne Johnson and what he does, because it was his production company, I suppose. So was I shocked that it didn't do well? More because of Dwayne's appeal than it was the Black Adam character. I wasn't overly familiar with the Black Adam character. Maybe it should have been a TV show first. I don't know. Maybe was it a lack of awareness or interest in the Black Adam character? You think that was the falling of that film?
I will talk about why I think it failed in a second, but before we do that, I just want to say that when I mentioned 52 before, and like Booster Gold was one of the main characters in that, that was also the first big proper Black Adam story as well in 52. 52 is a great read, and it plucks all these minor characters out the DC universe and puts them to the forefront in the absence of Batman, Superman, Wonder Woman. And for the first time, you see Black Adam as an anti-hero rather than a villain. And you see him with more dimensions rather than just being, he's Shazam but black. At the time it was Captain Marvel and Black Adam, but that's another story. I think the reason why it was unsuccessful is at this point now we have had a quick succession of 30 superhero origin movies, like near enough in a row. And they're all essentially cookie cutter films. They're all essentially the same sort of origin story. You know, you find a hero, they don't quite know what they're doing with the powers, and and all that sort of thing. And they find themselves, and then they eventually overcome and become a good person, and win the day, and get the girl, and blah blah blah. I think the origin movie, the fact that Black Adam was an origin movie, ruined it. But obviously, you need to have the origin explained to you, because no one's going to go into the cinema knowing who Black Adam is,
Yeah,
unless they did it in Shazam. If they did it in Shazam, then it would have made more sense, I think.
yeah,
But
yeah,
I think the general audience is tired of origin movies, because you never get the true essence of the character in the first film. It's always, these are all the characters, grow to love them, grow to hate these ones, and it's a bit tiresome. And I think a lot of people are sick of origin films.
yeah. I can totally see that. Yeah, I can totally see that, man. I understand your points there. Another point from Anthony, just on this as a whole. Maybe we should left this to the end, but I do want us to address Anthony's questions while he potentially is still with us. I feel like DC really need to manage expectations of these releases. Ultimately, they need to be making good films, which has been a lot of DC's issue into film. A very important time for DC. I would agree, it's a very important time. They had to start somewhere, and I guess now is as better time than any. And James Gunn is I can't think of anybody better to take them forward, Graham.
I was saying to someone yesterday, and I can't think who it was now, but I don't really think James Gunn has all that much power in DC. I think he's a figurehead.
Right. Okay.
I think the real people in charge are your big executives at the top, the guys in the suits, still, no
Yeah.
matter what they say. And Peter Safran is clearly, I would say, in charge. I think
Okay.
James Gunn is allowed a bit of creative freedom, and he's allowed to be a figurehead. He's essentially, the Kevin Feige of DC, where Marvel have put this one guy, seemingly on top, and all the decisions are made by him. They're not. You've got Bob Iger and people like that who greenlight everything, and if they don't like the idea of something, they don't do it. And I know that Kevin Feige had to fight for James Gunn and Guardians of the Galaxy to get made in the first place, because they did not believe in it. Disney did not like the idea of it, but thankfully it was a success.
Yeah.
Thankfully, but then since then the MCU's tone has shifted to being all like Guardians of the Galaxy, and I don't think that's necessarily a good thing.
No. I think there's a lot of potential for a much more gritty series of shows and movies with DC. Interesting. Another question from Anthony before we move on to the final three in this slate for James Gunn. I personally think the problem wasn't that it was just an origin movie, but a massive budget origin movie. We talk about Black Adam here, but we need good stories at a much lower budget. And get that word of mouth powering the market. Yeah, in principle.
I agree. Yeah, I think
in principle, because the problem with those good stories at lower budgets is, maybe the perception is they won't sell as many tickets and they won't do as well.
I think the main problem to me, and I'm going to double down on what I said. I think the main problem with me for Black Adam is that it was teased for years. The Rock, Dwayne Johnson, has been involved in a Black Adam movie for the past 10 plus years. He's been trying to get it off the ground for years. He bought the rights to it, so he is the executive producer for that film and for that character in any portrayal, for life, from what I understand. And he's been trying to get it. He's trying to be, pushing it and pushing it and pushing it into getting into production for years. They've been going on about it for years. People have grown up into being an adult, having read about it since they were a kid. About this film that's eventually going to come out. So the anticipation was almost boring at this point. It was being teased and teased and teased and teased and teased. And then when it came out, it was sadly just an origin story. That's my opinion. I think the fact that it was big budget didn't help, because although it looks pretty and it's I enjoyed it. I thought it was a really good film. But the fact that it's a big budget meant that it had to make a big return to be successful, and I think they relied too much on Dwayne Johnson's involvement for it to make a good return, and it didn't quite get there.
Yeah, interesting points. This is why we love having you and your views on here, Graham, to give this perspective. One that I'm particularly, probably the most interested of this slate that I'm interested in getting your viewpoint on is The Brave and the Bold, the theatrical film they're going to do. Do you see? There's another one that's coming up that I know you're excited about that I know nothing about, but this one, I know that there is a story here that means a lot to you. So, in terms of this and what we can expect from The Brave and the Bold, what is this going to look like, and what should we expect from this type of show? Because again, well, not show, sorry, movie. I mean, obviously,
Hold that picture there a second.
Iconic characters is what I was trying to say there.
Tell me who those two characters are.
Batman and Robin.
Tell me their real names.
Bruce Wayne, Dick Grayson.
No.
Okay.
No. That is Dick Grayson and Damian Wayne in that order.
Okay. Wow.
Yeah. Good stuff, isn't it? Right. So
yeah,
I'm going to lean into I've got a pile of comics here to talk about, and I'm going to pick them up. Right. So Grant Morrison, their first work on Batman was in a the old school Batman UK annuals you get, like any other UK annual. It was a prose story in 1980. It was the 1986 annual, which came out in 1985. That was their first Batman story. And then after that, you had Arkham Asylum, and then Gothic. Or no, that way around. And then I think so. I can't remember. And then for years, Grant Morrison went on to do lots of things, lots of independent stuff, lots of other bits and bobs, a really successful run on New X-Men, loads of stuff. And then they came back to Batman, and they didn't just do a Batman story. I'm going to put them up here. So you've got they've re-released it in recent years in omnibus edition, and you've got volume 1.
I mean, these look like mega stories, Graham.
This is one big story. Volume 2
wow.
and volume 3.
Okay.
Right, and I will give you a clue as to what happens.
Yeah.
Volume 2 has this lovely cover by Frank Quietly of Batman in his grave, very clearly not alive.
Yeah, is he smiling as well?
Can you see that?
Yes, I can. There you are. Yeah, he is not. Yeah, he is. That's creepy.
It's I don't. There's a lot of like little subtle hints in there. Like the shape of the bone there is a little bit like a bat logo, and I don't know whether he's smiling or not, but it's like a sort of jokery looking smile.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
Smiling. It's just teeth are just together, and there's no skin there. It's just he's dead. But he's not really dead. So in Grant Morrison's Batman run, I did allude to it. Oh, put them there. I did allude to it slightly earlier on. In 52, is there. That was co-written by Grant Morrison amongst other people, and what they did was they showed you Bruce Wayne on this journey outside of the superheroism, and going out and finding himself, and take like when there was no Batman in 52, it wasn't that he'd died or anything like that. He took time out to go and discover himself, and no one knew where he was. He was presumed dead by the general public, but he just wasn't there. And in this omnibus set, it starts off with, if you look at the listing of it, it's material from 52 issues, blah 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 blah, and it's all the Grant Morrison Batman stuff in 52, and then it kicks into the run proper. And essentially what it is it includes Final Crisis, where Batman dies, right?
Okay.
Hence why you've got the skeleton in the thing. He's not really dead. Slight spoilers. He goes up against Darkseid. Darkseid's got his Omega beams that go like that and then turn you to fried chicken, right? Except he didn't get turned to fried chicken. He got sent back in time so many thousand years, and then Batman then time hopped back to the present day posing as different Batmen throughout history.
Wow.
It's insane.
This is complicated. This is
Grant
complicated.
Morrison's Batman run is known for being extremely complicated. People have written books about it. It is very difficult to comprehend. There's back in the 50s, there was when I interviewed Michael Uslan about his Batman films.
Yes,
you know,
which you can find right here.
Finding the thingy. He said that when he was, when he was growing up, he was reading, Batman of Planet X, right? Grant Morrison is a huge fan of 1940s, 1950s, 1960s camp, ridiculous everything DC, right? And one of the things that Grant Morrison did was they took Batman from Planet X, where he's like red and purple and mental. They took Batmite, which is a ridiculous concept, and brought it all into modern continuity. But the way they did it was basically, right. I'm gonna spoil it slightly, and a lot of people who've read the comic never even picked up on this, and there's people who have read it 5 times who are still surprised when they notice it, right? I wish I could. I could sit and look through the books and find the right page, but I'm not going to. It'll take me forever. Basically, Batman, Bruce Wayne, recognizing that he is vulnerable to psychic, disturbances and whatnot, he plants him inside himself a code word where if he hears the word Zurinar, right, he becomes what was essentially 1940s, 1950s Batman of Planet X, right? Zurinar, right? And it's spelled Z-U-R-R apostrophe hyphen E-N hyphen A-R-R-H, right? And there's a reason behind it as well, because Grant Morrison revamped it up. But I'll go into that in a second. This is I realise I sound like a fruitcake.
No, but this is what I mean. I'll just pause because there's some interesting comments from Anthony, but also from my perspective, as you know, I have understanding of very few comic book characters because I'm sort of hardcore into certain franchises and not necessarily other ones. And Batman is one of them that I like, but I'm not really, really into. And this to me is going to be really complicated to stick in a film. You obviously there's more, and I didn't want to stop you in your flow there, Graham. But
it might be more simple than this, but I'm going to give you an explanation for why that's Dick Grayson and why that's Damian Wayne.
Okay,
if that makes sense. I'm not, the film probably won't be this complicated. I would hope, given that Batmite has been referenced in Peacemaker, that Batmite might end up being in this film. I've been joined by a cat. Hello, where are you? Oh, bum. But no, you carry on. I'll come back to this. I'm on a roll.
Okay, you want me to carry? You want me to carry on? Are you sure? Because there's some questions. Go on.
Are they relevant questions today? So can we come back to it in a minute?
They are relevant questions, yeah. So Brave and the Bold is a risky move, seriously risky. They're going to have 2 Batman franchises running next to each other, one in the multiverse, one not. An audience can't help but compare. I'll go through the next one because that is also, the 3 of them, and we can address them as a whole. Ultimately, one will be preferred by the audience, and this will affect the press and audience reaction massively. If the Brave and the Bold is part of the multiverse, they better get it right. Dom's right, it is complicated, which is great for hardcore fans. However, one of the things which made the Marvel movies a success, in my opinion, is its initial grounding in reality. And then before growing a universe, the easiest way to establish it is by setting it in a realistic setting. Then over multiple films, you can introduce new universe rules. Interesting points there from Anthony Graham.
I agree. And I think what Anthony's alluding to is possibly the Batman should possibly be the grounding for this new universe rather than Batman Brave and the Bold.
Okay.
I'm guessing. I kind of agree. I think as I'm explaining this, I realise that it is ridiculous and I look like I'm insane. And
no, you look passionate. There'll be hardcore fans. Oh, I can hear myself. There'll be hardcore fans that are they watch this back or listen to this back, hopefully, and they're like, yeah, because they have a big wall of comics behind them, like you do, and they read this. But for me, and for certain people that only have, like I said, we haven't done that. We've used our time differently. I'm certainly not going to say better, because I wish I had your enthusiasm for comic books, Graham. I love that you have so much love for so many wonderful artists and comic books. I almost feel like I wasted my youth, actually, sometimes when I look at how many comics you've read. But my point is that I don't have the wider understanding of that, the multiverse Batman. I can barely get my head around the Batman and the Joker storyline and the complications around that.
Yeah.
And the sort of diversity and the complications of that basic story. So when you start saying all this to me, Anthony's into it because clearly he has an understanding of it, and I'm sure other people watching this back or listening to it will too. But for me, this is all blowing my mind, mate.
It's genuinely mind blowing. I know people that have read Grant Morrison's Batman run 3 times and still don't get it. And this is what I'm gonna point something out, which is gonna potentially blow people's minds who have read it, right? In the 40s and 50s, when you had lots of crazy, zany, intergalactic Batman adventures, and it was specifically the 1950s Batman from Planet X, who was Zur-En-Arrh, but with no explanation for what that meant or anything. When Grant Morrison's done it, you see a very brief Batman clip, Bruce Wayne, not clip. What am I on about? Flashback in the comic, right? Where Bruce Wayne is a kid and he's walking out from the cinema, having seen the Mark of Zorro or the Mask of Zorro, whatever it is, right? Yeah. And his dad mumbles something. And what he's basically saying, if I remember correctly, is that if Zorro was a real person in their universe, he would be in Arkham.
Right. Okay. Right? Yeah.
Bruce Wayne, being a kid, doesn't hear it properly. So you see Thomas Wayne saying, Zorro would be in Arkham. What Bruce Wayne hears is Zur-En-Arrh.
Right.
Okay. Like, if you notice that when you read it, you think, fucking hell, that's where it comes from. So wow. This crazy word that he uses, when he says it, he resets his brain and becomes like this weird, psychotic, psychedelic, mental, crazy Batman who wears purple and red and yellow, and he's got Batmite on his shoulder telling him what to do, and it's completely bonkers, but it's all grounded in this Silver Age Batman nonsense that people grew up with.
That sounds
years ago.
That sounds fascinating.
It's crazy. It's beautiful. It's really fun to read. I'm just gonna grab another book just to explain something. Hang on.
Yeah, please do. As Graham gets up, I will flash some lovely art for you as well. There we go. Thank you guys for those that are watching us as well talk about this DC Slate revealed by James Gunn the other day. For those that are watching this back, I appreciate you coming back to it as well. We have 2 more films and TV shows to discuss following this. Graham, what have you got for me?
Right, so this is quite a rare book now. This is way out of print, very hard to find, and it's called The Black Case Book. And it's the stories that inspired Batman R.I.P. And it's, selected by Grant Morrison. And it is lots of old school, like 40s and 50s and a couple of 60s Batman stories.
Right.
That they used as inspiration for their Batman run.
Okay, wow.
And it's lots of like Silver Age concepts that they brought into modern reality. Well, not reality, but, that's where Grant Morrison brought all his stuff from. It's all collected in like a little trade paperback, and that's where really Batman cool. R.I.P. comes from. Right. So anyway, in Grant Morrison's Batman run, Batman dies 3 times, but they don't really die. In the first bit, he actually goes off and discovers himself. In the second one, he goes. But anyway, that's besides the point. In the comic, we are introduced to Batman's child, Damian Wayne, who is the son of Bruce Wayne and Talia al Ghul. Right, and he is raised as an assassin under Ra's al Ghul, right?
Okay.
When Batman dies, Dick Grayson becomes the new Batman. And the really interesting part of it, and I think what we're going to get on screen is this is why I've had to explain it all, how Batman dies. And, because you expect Batman on screen to be Bruce Wayne. And I kind of think it won't be. And I'll tell you why. When they had the big switch up and Grant Morrison changed everything, so the new Batman was Dick Grayson and the new Robin was Damian Wayne.
Right.
You went from having in the old comics, you've got Batman, who's the dark, brooding, serious one, and Robin, who's the fun, laughing punster.
Yeah.
And you've got complete role reversal. You've got, a 12-year-old Robin, who's the dark, brooding, he's seen things you wouldn't believe, really dark hero. And then you've got this fun Dick Grayson character who's a new Batman who's smiling and making puns. And it's such a complete role reversal. It's like it made Batman and Robin genuinely more interesting than it had been in a very, very long time. It was a complete, it put the whole dynamic on its head and made it really fun. And I think the Brave and the Bold, that title was a Batman series from years ago. And the fact they're using that for a new Batman and Robin movie, because I think it is going to be a Batman and Robin movie. It's the Brave and the Bold. It's not, it's not Batman. It's the dynamic duo, as you would say, in yesteryear. I think it is going to be Dick Grayson and Damian Wayne. I don't think it's going to be Bruce. And the best bit of that particular run, and I don't want to spoil it, but it's when Bruce Wayne does come back and you've got two Batmen, and Damian Wayne Robin like fighting together. And it's just like you look at it. If you'd have just picked up a random issue of that run without any sort of idea what was going on before that, you'd look at it and you'd think, what the bloody hell am I reading? Because it just doesn't make any sense.
Yeah.
You've got to be in it for the long haul. And it started off, Batman RIP, and it went through to Batman Inc., like right into the New 52. It was over a good chunk of years. I mean, you're talking, I think 6 or 7 years, I think, in total.
Right. Yeah.
And it's a big epic storyline. My only concern with that film would be that, if they just from the off have a Dick Grayson as Batman movie, you're not going to have the investment of Dick Grayson. You're not going to have the investment of Damian Wayne. You're not going to have the investment of Batman, Bruce Wayne Batman, not being there. And but then again, I trust James Gunn to do a good job of it.
Yeah.
And I think it'd be that crazy and that different. I think it would work really well.
Yeah, like I said, they're only going to have 2 hours, well, to potentially even 3 hours. Do you think they'll fit all this? Do you think they'll get a decent film out of it, or do you think there'll be things that people are like, oh, well, they should have covered that, they should have covered this?
I think in a typical James Gunn style, you'll get little nods that your hardcore fans would be like, it's that bit, and it's that bit, but it will be accessible enough for anyone to enjoy. And I think it'll make a lot of headlines, because I do think, like, even if it's not Dick Grayson as Batman, I think they're going to have that different dynamic where you've got the dark, brooding Robin and the fun, silly, over the top, pun making Batman. And I think it'd make a really interesting film. I think it'll be great for the kids. I think
a very different take.
Yeah,
a very different take.
I'm expecting something very, very different and very fun.
Okay, yeah, very interesting, Graham. I'm really looking forward to that. It's going to be complicated, but interesting and an exciting time for fans of Batman. I'm going to leave. I'm going to leave Swamp Thing to last, because I do
You've
have
not asked me for my rating for it yet.
Oh, go on, give me your rating for the Brave and the Bold. Batman,
10.
the Brave and the Bold. 10. A 10.
Yeah.
So that is winning the day of all these 10 projects that we're discussing. Brave and the Bold, you are a resident comics expert.
Purely because he's like with the Superman movie, James Gunn has referenced Grant Morrison's run, or All-Star Superman story.
Right.
But he's not said this is going to be based on All-Star Superman. It's just he's been seen on Twitter reading it, and he's using promotional pictures from All-Star Superman to advertise it and promote it. Whereas with this, he has specifically said that this is going to be based on Grant Morrison's Batman run.
Okay, so
that alone excites me. I'm a huge Grant Morrison fan. I love Grant Morrison very dearly. I've got a full shelf here. Can you see that one?
Yeah.
I've got, if I run through it real quickly, I've got Animal Man, Flex Mentallo, Sebastiano, The Invisibles, The Filth, Kill Your Boyfriend, We Three, Kid Eternity, Joe the Barbarian, Happy, Multiversity. I've got loads of Grant Morrison stuff. I've got Grant Morrison stuff up there. I've got it all down. I love Grant Morrison.
The series,
great.
the series got me into it. I'd love to read the comics at some point. I'm sure I will. But yeah, so again, this is Graham's number one film so far in terms of anticipation, The Brave and the Bold. Moving on, like I said, I want to leave Swamp Thing to last because it's one of the characters that I am interested in as a sort of a passive fan of comic books. The Swamp Thing really does interest me as a character and how he's portrayed and been portrayed in the past. But this is one that you're excited about that I have never heard of before in any setting, and that is the film, The Authority. What is The Authority, Graham? And what can we expect from a film portrayal of this? Like I say, what am I going to get here? What is this? Is this a faction? Is this like a Justice League? To me, it looks like a Justice League. What is The Authority?
It's essentially a sort of Justice League.
Okay.
It's not DC as such. It's Wildstorm, right? Wildstorm was headed by Jim Lee. It was part of Image Comics. So essentially, in the late 80s, early 90s, you had all these prominent artists working for Marvel and DC, and they felt like they were getting sidelined by the writers. It wasn't Alan Moore and Dave Gibbons' Watchmen. It was Alan Moore's Watchmen, right? So you've got all these artists who were essentially not getting the limelight that the writers are getting. So what they did was in the early to mid 90s, I think it's actually it was recently like the 25th anniversary of Image founding. And out of Image, of course, you've got like The Walking Dead and stuff like that came out of that company. But you got all these different artists who went their own way, set up this new company called Image after the basis on it being Image. It's picture based. It's not story based. It's picture based. It's artist focused. You had all these people set up this new company, and then little companies within that company, and it was all creator owned. And if someone made something for Image and Image published it, they own the rights. They could sell the movie rights to whoever they wanted. They can do what they wanted with it. And one of the people that went over to it went over to Image, founded Image, and created Wildstorm was a guy called Jim Lee. If you've ever heard of him.
No. He's
currently, or at least he was, the CEO of DC Comics.
Okay.
Right. And what happened was he worked on X-Men in the early 90s. He was a very big deal, very, very good artist. But he was one of the ones that felt like he was getting essentially abused by the writers. He was, illustrating these fantastic X-Men comics. And, he wasn't getting his name above it. It was somebody else's name. It was the writer, and he felt like he was doing a lot of the work. So he went over to Image. He created Wildstorm. Wildstorm published loads of stuff. DC went to him and said, we'd like to buy Wildstorm. Such things as, The Authority, Gen 13, the stuff that Alan Moore did for Wildstorm. And DC basically bought the whole thing. And as part of the deal, Jim Lee became CEO of DC Comics, the comic side of it, not the film or anything like that. But things changed. So that's where The Authority came from. It was created in 1999 by Warren Ellis, who's not a very nice person. We don't really talk about him anymore. He's a bit, he got caught out doing a lot of very dodgy things, and he apologized for it, which to me sounds like he's guilty. But he's still got a career. I don't really know why. I don't really get it, but we're not going to talk about that right now because it's weird. And it was also created by Brian Hitch, who has worked as an artist and a writer. His written stuff isn't as good as his artwork. His artwork, he's done The Authority, he did The Ultimates with Mark Miller, he's done loads of stuff. A lot of Doctor Who fans will know him as the guy that designed the 2005 rebooted TARDIS interior.
Right.
So you're talking British writers and artists, right? So the second volume of Wildstorm of The Authority was a guy called Mark Miller. You may have heard of him.
Yes.
Kick-Ass, Kingsman,
Yeah.
The Wanted, stuff like that. And he worked with artists like Grant Morrison, Frank Quietly. Grant Morrison would write a couple of issues of The Authority. He ghost wrote a couple of issues for Mark Miller. If I was to describe the story, I would say it is basically Guardians of the Galaxy, but not.
Okay.
I think the impression I got was when James Gunn did Guardians of the Galaxy, he took the concept from Dan Abnett and Andy Lanning from their comic book series, but then sort of merged it a bit with what The Authority is, toned it down a bit so it's suitable for kids, and then put out as a film.
Okay.
That's essentially what they did. I would say that The Authority is more like what the Guardians of the Galaxy movie was, except it's a bit more violent, it's a bit more sweary, it's a bit more alternative underground.
That sounds cool. Yeah,
it's ace. Like if you picture Kick-Ass,
yeah,
as a movie or as a comic or whatever, picture that but as a team and set firmly in the DC universe. That's essentially what it is.
That sounds cool.
It's a group of superheroes that it's crazy. I think my big prediction for it is that one of the characters, Jenny Sparks, is going to get her own series.
Okay, cool.
I could just see it happen. Jenny Sparks is a really popular character. I can just see it happen. I'd put money on it. I think it's going to, as a concept, as a film, it's going to do really, really well. It's going to be a surprise big hit. It's going to be like Deadpool or Guardians of the Galaxy. It's going to be that sort of humor, that sort of target audience, and it's going to be massive.
So like a funnier, more deadpan Suicide Squad type vibe.
Yeah, I think it'll be like Suicide Squad, but more over the top. Not as many deaths in it. More over the top, more silly. You've got like a Superman sort of character, a Batman sort of character. It's more like your Justice League.
Okay, right. Okay.
But you've got Apollo and Doctor and Jenny Quantum and all the Midnighter and people like that. So there might not be people that you recognise or that you'd know, but I think that it's quite obvious from what James Gunn said that he's going to be doing this. Like he said it's his passion project. He said many years ago when he was doing Guardians of the Galaxy that he was taking inspiration from Guardians of the Galaxy and The Authority. I've got the comics here. You can get it in one big omnibus, or lots of trade paperbacks, or you can do what I've done, and you can get the big absolute editions.
Oh, nice.
See them. These are big A4 slipcase editions, and you've got Volume 1, which is your Warren Ellis era one. And you've got Jenny Sparks there with the
cool.
Union Jack dress.
Oh,
it's just cool. And Volume 2, I've got the old printing of that one. I've got the new printing of Volume 1 because it was out of print for years. But I got the second volume when that one came out. And I was fortunate enough to have met a few of the people that worked on it, and I've got it signed by a few people. But it's, this is like, I'm a sucker for Frank Quietly art.
Yeah, beautiful stuff.
It's beautiful, and it's it's all British people, and my favorite type of comic is British American comics, and it's really exciting. I can't wait. I really can't wait. I think it's going to blow the world away. I think it's going to be completely unexpected. I don't want to spoil it because I think when it comes out, it's going to shock people. I think it's going to be genuinely shocking, very controversial, really, really funny. and I think it's going to blow the world away. It's going to be like when Deadpool came out, and Deadpool shocked everyone, but it's going to be worse than that. I don't want to spoil it, but I think it's going to be. If it's anything like the comics, I think that they might have to tone it down a little bit to make it more accessible.
Okay.
But I can see it being really, really, really fun.
Man, I'm excited. So again, is this going to rival Batman for you, Brave and the Bold, in terms of your rating? What's your rating in terms of your excitement level for the Authority film?
Out of
10.
12.
12. Okay, so it's the Graham's leading one.
I have been a fan of the Authority for 15 years, and I never, ever considered we would ever be getting a big budget live action movie. It was one of those things. Out of the Wildstorm stuff, we've got a Gen 13 movie which stars Flea in it as well.
All right.
And that was sadly lost because it was just as like the rights issues were getting all muddled up, and it was produced by Walt Disney, but it was a DC. Well, no, it was a Wildstorm movie, but it was just finished just as Wildstorm was bought by DC, which was owned by Warner Brothers. And then Disney were like, "Whoa, hang on a second, we're not paying for that. We're not we're not going to do anything with a DC product. You can, trot on, mate. So the Gen 13 movie, you can watch it on YouTube. Someone's put it on YouTube, and it's there for however long it's going to be there. But other than that, we've not got anything Wildstorm. And Wildstorm is a really, really good franchise, and they've not really done a lot with it.
Yeah.
Even the Alan Moore stuff, it's not like top 10 and America's Best Comics and that sort of thing. The only thing that's Wildstorm that did actually gain any traction was League of Extraordinary Gentlemen.
Yeah, I remember that.
Yeah, but everything else, it's all just sort of fallen down the side of the sofa. Like no one really knows about any of it or cares about any of it. And the Authority, to me, is one of the standout highlights of Wildstorm, and I think it's a shame it's taken this long for it to to be adapted to a movie or anything. But I think this would be the right time for it. If anything, if I was going to compare it to anything, it would be The Boys.
Okay, cool. Well, that's obviously very popular in the public consciousness, and I'm excited for it too. I'll watch it with you, Graham. We'll have a little watch along. That'll be great fun. I look forward to watching it with you.
I can't wait. I really want to do that.
Yeah, the last one, the final one I've left, because I do have an understanding of this character because I watched the movie in the 90s and the TV shows, the animated shows, and the more recent DC show they did. I did catch a little bit of it, not all of it, but I enjoyed it. But it's an odd choice to put as a film. Is Swamp Thing.
Is it though?
They did a series. They did a series of it. They've had a film of it in the past. Which I understand it went down pretty well. The DC show, the series, wasn't continued after season 1. That certainly would indicate to me that the ratings weren't what they wanted it to be. I thought it was good. I enjoyed what I saw of it. My intention is to go back and rewatch it, actually. But it wasn't a big ratings winner for DC, the series. The character I've always found fascinating. I love the idea of the character. Obviously, you can portray him in video games. He's featured heavily in the DC, the Mortal Kombat-esque DC games. So Swamp Thing he's in the new Harley Quinn animated series. So clearly, they have stock in Swamp Thing as a popular character. But I am still surprised they haven't done this in favor of a season 2. Why have they done this in favor of a season 2 of the series? Why are they going to invest money into a full film?
I'll tell you why. Firstly, Swamp Thing did really well on what was originally the DC Universe streaming app in America. And then it was put onto like Amazon Prime over here and, different platforms throughout the world. It did really do very well. Unfortunately, when they first set up to do Swamp Thing, it was set to be filmed in, I don't want to guess, but it was in one of the states in America, and they were promised a tax break, and then the deal fell through while they were filming it, and basically they couldn't afford to keep doing it. Warner Brothers wouldn't justify keeping the set there, however long it took to renegotiate and then do a second season. So they just said, we're going to have to end it. It's a really unfortunate circumstance where it was the suits, it was the high up guys that were saying, no, we can't do this. And I think the biggest problem the series had was that Michael Uslan wasn't involved, because Michael Uslan is the executive producer for Swamp Thing in films, animated or movies, but not series.
Right. Okay.
Like you've seen Michael Uslan before. You
Yes.
know how passionate he is, how
Yeah.
persuasive he can be.
Would you like to plug your interview right here on
I
Sounds?
interviewed him, like link in the comments. We didn't actually mention anything to do with Swamp Thing when we were talking about it. It was all Batman focused, and is the play based on his life that's coming to whatever it's coming to, New York. Like the Broadway. Yeah. It's Broadway, that's the one. We didn't touch on Swamp Thing. We ran out of time, and I wanted to, because he owns the rights to Swamp Thing in cinema and direct to video movies and everything else. So when you've got things like Justice League Dark that come out as an animated movie, that's got his stamp on it, and that does have Swamp Thing in it. Swamp Thing is a really popular character. You said about the the original movie. There's another couple of movies as well after that. There was a live action TV series. There was a very short animated series. Swamp Thing's been around for decades.
Yeah, I enjoyed the animated. I enjoyed the animated series. I enjoyed what they.
Really, really random question, because whenever I bump into anyone that's seen the animated series, I always ask them the same question: how long do you remember that series being?
I thought it was longer than it actually was.
Yeah, because there's only 5 episodes.
Yeah.
Like when I found that out, I was like, my mind was blown, because I remember watching it every week, and it can't have just been on for a month, surely.
They must have just replayed it loads.
I remember that being a big part of my childhood, and there's only 5 episodes. But no, on a more related note, the beauty of Swamp Thing is co-created by Len Wein and Bernie Wrightson. Len Wein also created Wolverine. So he's a big part of both. In fact, hang on. I forgot about this book. I've got the DC Universe by Len Wein, which is currently available, I believe. And this is one of the very rare DC books that somewhere on the back page, you've got his very famous. Can you see that? Oh,
nice. That's really cool.
A picture of him and his 2 big creations, Swamp Thing and Wolverine. And Wolverine in the back of a DC book, it's mind-blowing stuff. It does happen. It does occasionally, very rarely happen, but it does happen. Len Wein's he was a genius. He was a legend. One of the best writers that DC ever had. He wrote the animated series of Swamp Thing.
Oh wow!
He was cool. True. I've got a Batman by Len Wein book as well.
Oh wow, that looks great. Yeah.
My shelf, I've got them 2 together. It's beautiful. Anyway, but after Len Wein left the Swamp Thing comic, you had Alan Moore take over, and you know what Alan Moore's like. I've got the full Alan Moore set there. You can't see it, but it's there in front of me. I'll get one down. You twisted my arm, Dom.
I love it. I love it.
So you've got.
Oh mate. Oh.
There's 3 of these, right? And if you get the book out, it's like a clothy texture. It feels like moss. You're reading a book that's made out of moss. It's beautiful.
That looks stunning.
Really beautiful.
Stunning.
So they've just brought out the another Absolute Edition in the same style, which collects the whole Len Wein and Bernie Wrightson run as well. So you can have the Len Wein, Bernie Wrightson one, and then the 3 Alan Moore ones. After that, you've got the Veitch run. Then you've got what I think this film's going to be based on is the Nancy Collins run.
Okay.
I could be wrong. I could be completely wrong. But Nancy Collins, Alan Moore turned it into an environmentalism thing.
Yeah.
Right. Nancy Collins turned it into a very dark, brooding horror thing.
Yeah, that's where I kind of I access the character, is that sort of darker, brooding, the almost horror element to it. Yeah.
Yeah. I think the perfect thing they could do is make the film a sequel to the series. I don't know whether they would or not, but I don't see why they couldn't.
I really enjoyed the ending. I thought the ending was really well done.
I've not actually seen it. I'm a terrible fan, but I've read all the comics, but I've not actually seen it yet. I'll get around to it.
Yeah, no, definitely worth doing, man. Anthony's impressed with your Alan Moore set. Apparently, you met him in a coffee shop once. Where was that, Anthony? Where was the coffee shop? Maybe that was your university days, in Northampton or something like that. But yeah, that Alan Moore, yeah, that was that book. That's one of the most beautiful.
There's the three of them. I've got Absolute V for Vendetta, Watchmen, and then Swamp Thing 1, 2, and 3 all next to each other.
Yeah,
I wish I could show you, but it's up there. And then I've got League of Extraordinary Gentlemen, the whole thing. I've got Alan Moore's Captain Britain. I've got Illuminations. I'll just grab that down. For anyone watching that likes Alan Moore, I believe this is still in stock on Waterstones. You can buy and look at that.
Oh wow! Oh wow!
You can still buy the exclusive to Waterstones signed edition. I think for £25 on Waterstones.
Oh, there you go.
If you're a fan of Alan Moore, grab yourself that. It's a prose book, but it's beautiful and it's signed. And getting an Alan Moore signature nowadays is like winning the lottery.
Yeah, that is amazing. There you go. It was Northampton. I knew it was, and apparently that's where he lives. There you go.
It is, yeah. Alan Moore is a multi-talented, crazy genius. If you look him up, in fact, this is crazy. Hang on.
Right. Okay. Graham's off again. We are gonna wind it up in a few minutes, guys. But go on, Graham.
It's not in here. Where is it?
No
I've got one of my Alan Moore books. I've got it comes with a 7-inch record, and it's a song that Alan Moore's singing on.
No
and
way.
It's on YouTube. You can go and find it. It is on YouTube. That guy is crazy talented. He's oozing creativity on all these different platforms. He's crazy, and I don't necessarily agree with everything that he says, because he's a bit he plays the victim a lot when it comes to DC and Marvel.
Oh wow.
And as an example, I've got his Captain Britain book here, and that is the entire Alan Moore book.
Wow.
Of Captain Britain. If you look on it, I don't know if you can see that, if it's the right way around or what.
Yeah.
His name's not on it.
No.
And it talks about the artists that worked on it, and it says written by the original writer.
Right.
Because he refuses to have his name on anything to do with Marvel. With DC, he hasn't got much choice, but with Marvel, he can say, I don't want my name on it. So if you go out and buy anything else, like Miracle Man, which is published by Marvel, his name's not on it. It's weird. It's the same with this. You've got the artists at the bottom, and it doesn't say anywhere on it.
That's really odd.
Yeah,
really odd. Why would you do that to yourself?
Who knows? He's crazy. But this is all the Alan Moore issues in one book, and his name's not on it anywhere. It's honestly, it's nuts.
That's fantastic. I didn't know he spent his entire life in Northampton. There you go. There's another testament to the fact you can do anything from anywhere. I'm a big advocate for that. You can become a world-renowned writer and artist from anywhere in the world, even Northampton. There you go.
Even Northampton. He's got a bit of a Brummy accent as well. He's just cool, isn't he? I do love Alan Moore. I just think he's a bit of a fruitcake. But when you got that kind of money, when you can turn down checks from Marvel and DC, you've already got enough money. You don't need any more. You've got to be a little bit eccentric.
I imagine he's doing very well. He's a crazy genius and hates a lot of what people have done to his work. Yeah, fair enough. Can't imagine how annoying it is for you to put all those books back after these streams.
Luckily, I've got it all in like a weird order, and I know where everything goes. But since I've like plucked books out of thin air, I've got them all stacked up next to me.
Well, I appreciate your time, Graham. Let's wind up on Swamp Thing. It's certainly the thing I'm most interested in because I have an affinity for the character. But for you, grade out of 10, what would you give this? What's your excitement level for Swamp Thing?
I'll be honest. The most exciting part of Swamp Thing coming out as a movie to me, I think, is that we'll get the original stuff released properly. I think this will get, hopefully, this will get the original Swamp Thing movie, the Return to Swamp Thing. Oh, sorry, the Return of Swamp Thing. The Swamp Thing television series and the animated series might get proper releases. I think the first film is out on Blu-ray, but the rest of it isn't. And I think that might spurn it on. We might get more releases. I don't know. But I am excited about the actual film to come out. But I'm not that excited. I'd say about a 7.
A 7, that's not too bad. That's not too bad.
Yeah, I mean, it's all quite positive, apart from the initial the animated series. What is it again?
Wait, what?
Creature Commandos.
Creature Commandos. Yeah, Anthony's looking forward to that as well.
I'm not that fussed about that. I don't know. I don't know why they're doing it animated. Whatever. I'm not that excited about that. I do like animation, don't get me wrong. I think of all the things to pick, that and animated just seems like an odd choice. I trust James Gunn to do good things, but I don't get it. And Swamp Thing, I am looking forward to, but I think Swamp Thing's going to be towards the end of this 10-year cycle by the sound of it.
Yeah. I'm very excited to see what they do with it. Anthony, looking forward to Waller the most. Yeah, I think that has the most crossover potential because obviously we've seen Waller and Viola Davis play the character so well. Creature Commandos, not for Graham, but certainly for Anthony. Guys,
I will watch it, but I don't. I'm not. It's on my list. I am going to watch it, but I'm not excited for it.
It's animated crossed with film, which sounds interesting.
Is it?
All right. That will be interesting. There you go. Some interesting stuff to come from this discussion. Thank you, Graham, for spending the last nearly 2 hours with me to talk through the DC slate revealed by James Gunn the other day. For those people that come back to this, thank you very much for doing so. Hopefully you've agreed with some of our opinions. Don't forget to drop a comment if you like or dislike anything we have to say or Graham has to say as our resident comics expert. Thank you for bringing all of your comic books down from the shelf, Graham, as well. I appreciate you.
I didn't bring them up. I could have brought 52 down in Final Crisis and stuff like that, because I was talking about it, but I just, I didn't think I would. But then, you can't really talk about Booster Gold without talking about 52. And you can't talk about Grant Morrison's Batman run without talking about 52 because it starts in 52. I should have brought that down. That's just had a new printing 52, and it is a really, really good story. It's mostly standalone, so you should read it if you can.
Yeah, I'd be very interested to read it. Andrew Burrows has joined us from Canada. Thanks, very fun to watch. My absolute pleasure. This is why we do it. Thank you, Andrew, for being here. Appreciate you. And the voice performers of the cartoon will be playing the live action moments as well. Oh, there you go.
Right. This is one thing I don't like about it.
So this is Creature Commandos, guys. So what we're discussing, Creature Commandos at the end.
Not necessarily Creature Commandos, but when Peter Gunn, I'm merging them into one person now. When James Gunn said that from now on it's going to be streamlined and you're going to have the same actor doing live action, animated, and game, I think they can only do that because Kevin Conroy's passed away and Mark Hamill's retiring as Joker. But I think it does Tara Strong dirty. I think it. I personally find it quite upsetting because you've got a great cast of voice actors that do video games, that do, animated movies and shows and stuff. And I love the fact that, one of the things that DC does a lot better than Marvel is they've got this huge, huge back catalogue of animated films. Like, there's 50 something of them all. There's loads of them. And they're all really good and they've got great casting. And, you when you look at the casting for them, you've got seemingly random people that are, like they appear as, one character in one series, and then in an animated movie they play a totally different character. Like Batman is played by someone out of Gotham. Is it Jim Gordon out of Gotham? He
Right.
plays Batman in one of the animated movies, and and they can have a lot of fun with it. When you look at, like, historically, Lex Luthor from Smallville played the Flash on Justice League, the animated series. There's this, like, sort of
lot of crossover. There's a lot of
yeah,
crossover there. Yeah.
they have fun with it, and like there's one episode of Justice League Unlimited where Lex Luthor and the Flash, it's called the Great Brain Robbery. Their minds get switched, and then of course at the same time you've got Smallville was on TV, and you've got Michael Rosenbaum playing Lex Luthor in Smallville and Flash, but inside Lex Luthor's body in Justice League. And you get like fun little things like that, and it's fun to watch, and it's like a little sort of joke for the fans and stuff like that. And what James Gunn's proposing is that all that is a thing of the past. Tara Strong playing Harley Quinn is a thing of the past. And it's just, from now on, it's going to be, if someone plays Batman, they are Batman in the movie, in the game, in the this, in the that, and the other. And like I said, I think they can only do that now because Kevin Conroy has sadly passed away, because Kevin Conroy was Batman for,
of course,
decades. And he he was the ultimate Batman for a lot of people.
I agree.
Personally, when I read a Batman comic, in my head, I can hear Kevin Conroy reading it.
Yeah, of course. That's the voice. That is the voice that I hear as well.
Yeah, I think a lot of people, like people of our generation, having watched Batman the animated series, Batman Beyond,
the Arkham games as well. The Arkham games.
Yeah, the Arkham games. Yeah, like you're completely right. I think had James Gunn announced that before Kevin Conroy died, I think there would be absolute uproar.
Oh, 100%. 100%.
And I still think that I don't. It doesn't sit right with me now because, like I say, people like Tara Strong, I feel like are getting shafted.
Yeah.
And I don't think there's necessarily a call for it. I don't think some actors are good at doing voice roles, and a lot of them aren't. Voice work is very different to live action acting, and some actors can do both. Some can do one. Some can do the other. You've got people like Maurice LaMarche that has done a bit of live action, but he's, like, by his own admission, he doesn't do it. He's not very good at it. He's great at doing voices. The Brain in Pinky and the Brain. He's various voices in Futurama and things like that. He's great at Phil LaMarr. He was a live action role in Pulp Fiction, and he went on to be Jon Stewart in Justice League and stuff like that. Hermes Conrad in Futurama. He's a great voice actor. He does do a bit of live action, but not that much. Sometimes you'll get like celebrities or actors that are shoehorned into doing voice roles for animated movies, and it doesn't work. Sometimes it does, and sometimes it doesn't. And I think it's a bad idea. Personally, I really don't think it's a good idea. I think if you like, Tara Strong to a lot of people is Harley Quinn.
Yeah, of course.
She's not the only Harley Quinn. There's different voice actors that do Harley Quinn, but she is, to a lot of people, the Harley Quinn. And what James Gunn has basically said is, we're putting her out to pasture, and we're going to presumably have Margot Robbie do it all.
Yeah. Well, they also have in the cartoon, the animated series, which is great, by the way. I really enjoy the animated series. They have Kaylee Cuoco, who does obviously in Big Bang Theory.
Big Bang Theory, yeah. She does a really good job. I was surprised at how good she was at it. But I would not want to see that Harley Quinn continue with Margot Robbie taking over. I don't think it'd work. I've never seen Margot Robbie do a voice role before. No one knows if she can do it.
I was fascinated to see it.
Yeah, and Tara Strong is a career voice actress. She's really good at it. She's nailed it. She can effortlessly, unlike me, she can effortlessly. Start again. I've had too much Red Bull. She can effortlessly. Don't say it for me.
Effortlessly.
She can effortlessly do any voice out of 100 voices that she's done on demand. And if you follow her on Facebook or Instagram or whatever, she'll give monologues, and she'll weave in and out of Bubbles from Powerpuff Girls to Harley Quinn to all these different characters, without batting an eyelid. She's perfect. She's a career voice actress. She's done a bit of live action, but she's a career voice actress.
Yeah, Tara Strong is very, very well known, of course. Yeah.
Yeah. And I think to me, I would say that she's a better Harley Quinn than Margot Robbie. And I know that may be a little bit controversial in this day and age, but it is what it is. It's just my opinion. I don't want to see Tara Strong being sort of, taken out of that, playground. I enjoy Tara Strong as Harley Quinn, and she's done Batgirl before. She's done all these different voices. She's good at it. Why ruin it? Like I say, if it was Kevin Conroy being moved out of, playing Batman unceremoniously, as if it's a good thing, from now on it's going to be streamlined, we're going to do this, like the last time we had a Batman video game based on a movie, do you know which one it was?
No.
It was Batman Begins, and it was shit.
I didn't know that was a thing.
It was awful. It was probably one of the worst Batman games we've ever had, and we've had some stinkers. When you've got companies like Rocksteady, and to a lesser extent Warner Brothers Montreal, who are allowed to just do their own thing, they, for Arkham Asylum and Arkham City, they recruited Paul Dini to, who co-created Harley Quinn. On a separate note, he wrote the story for those two games. And them two, you can tell they're written by a career comic book writer compared to Arkham Knight. Them two stand out on their own as great games. And they were allowed to pick the voice actors they wanted. And as fans, they picked Mark Hamill as the Joker, Kevin Conroy as Batman. And they were allowed to pick who and what they wanted. They weren't tied to a movie. They weren't tied to anything really. They weren't even tied to the comics really. If anything, they were probably tied closer to the DC animated universe with Batman animated series, Batman Beyond, and stuff, because a lot of the shared actors. But really, the Arkham universe was its own thing, and I think because it didn't rely on anything else like that, that's how it worked. That's why it worked. And James Gunn is saying, "Oh no, from now on, all the games are going to be the same actors as the films." I don't think it's going to work. If you look back at a lot of games that have come out that have been, film tie-ins, some of the reason why some of them don't work is because they use the same actors from the films and they can't do it.
Yeah.
Some actors are just not made for, Patrick Stewart is really, really good at acting, but he's not very good at doing voice work. With the right direction, he can do it and he has done it, but he's not a natural. Tara Strong is perfect.
Yeah, Tara Strong is great. I very much agree. Like I say, I before Kaylee Cuoco and that sort of, because I really did enjoy the new animated series and how it was done, I always associated Tara Strong with Harley Quinn. Anthony makes a good point to sort of finish up on. You don't need to worry, Graham. They have DC Multiverse and DC Elsewhere, which to me sounds overcomplicated, which is their brand outside of the main multiverse. So you will see stuff out of the collective multiverse.
Shall I dip into my comic book collection again? I'm just going to be 1 second.
Yeah, no, go for it. We'll to finish up, we'll dip into Graham's comic book collection one more time. We'll try and wind it down now in the last sort of 5 minutes. Once again, guys, it's been an absolute pleasure having you with us. Thank you so much for giving us your attention for such a long period of time. We do love to talk comic books, myself and Graham. I am obviously less initiated and au fait with comics than as Graham. So it's great to have his knowledge and viewpoint on things. And honestly, it gives me great enthusiasm listening to him talk about comic books. And as a fan of kind of coming into it from movies and video games and stuff like that, as I have done, more pop culture, it's great getting that insight from Graham and getting a potential view of what these series are going to be like. And obviously, I do know James Gunn's work as well. So I'm excited to see what is done over the next sort of 10-year period with these 10 projects. Graham's returned.
I'm not going to go through all these. While I was looking through them, I did notice that I've got Detective Comics issue 1027, which is obviously 1000 issues after 27, which was Batman's debut. It's Frank Quitely, and it's got Dick Grayson and Damian Wayne as Batman and Robin.
Awesome.
Just wanted to point that out just because it's there. But anyway, it's a variant cover one. What I wanted to actually point out was not necessarily this issue, but this. Can you see that logo there?
Yeah, just about. I can't see what it says, but I can see the logo.
Elseworlds.
Right.
For a long time, I don't need the rest of them now. For a long time, Elseworlds was the official, the official logo, the official imprint of, DC products that went in the DC universe. Stuff like Gotham by Midnight and stuff like that. Victorian England Batman. Stuff that's specifically not in the DC universe. And they recently retired it in the comics and said that it's no longer a thing. They still do stuff that's not in continuity, like Black Label, but they don't use the word Elseworlds anymore. And I think it's really interesting and kind of weird that they're now using that term, but in film.
Yeah.
And it's weird because, for years, for the past 30 years, it's been specifically comics that aren't in continuity, like that by Mike Grell. Let's have a look. I mean, I have got loads of them. Batman Houdini.
Oh, wow.
Stuff that's like you wouldn't expect.
Yeah.
Mike Mignola, Gotham by Gaslight. Here's one. Mike W. Barr. Batman in Darkest Night. That's Batman as a Green Lantern.
Oh, there you go.
It's stuff that you wouldn't expect. Like, if you open it up, you've got Superman in a domino mask. It's Elseworld. It's like the equivalent to Marvel's What If. It's a different universe. It's its own thing.
Yeah.
And one of the things that DC's always done really well is they've had multiple universes. And a very, very, very quick history lesson. In the mid-'80s, DC thought, this is getting too complicated. We'll have they called it a crisis event, and it was Crisis on Infinite Earths, and they took all the different universes and in the story crashed them all into one, and they said from now on there is one universe and that's it. And then they said, oh, actually we still want to do other stuff, so we'll call it Elseworlds, and that's where Elseworlds came from.
That's where it comes from. Oh, wow.
And that's what they're doing with the films now. You've essentially got Flash. The Flash movie is essentially going to be a crisis movie if you compare it to the comics, and it's going to bring all the worlds into one and say, right, from now on, this is Earth Prime, this is the Earth that we want you to like, and anything else is Elseworlds.
Okay.
And just like in the comics, I predict that eventually you'll end up with more universes again because people will get more interested in it. The concept behind 52. Having explained 52 to you a little bit briefly, have a guess at why you think it's called 52?
Universes?
Yes. Most people don't think that because it's 52 and it was published weekly for a year. So, it's the number of issues. It's how long it lasted. By the end of it, it's you're told that even though there's been a crisis, even though that the superheroes themselves are all aware that the universes have all been sort of streamlined into one universe, and there is only one universe. It's revealed that actually there's 52 universes. And then as a sequel to that, Grant Morrison did Multiversity, where you've got, I'll pull that one out because I've got it behind me.
Yeah, so I heard you reference that earlier. Yeah,
you've got if you open this up, I'm such a nerd. If you open it up, you've got a crazy map.
Wow! Oh man, that's something else.
That is the map of the 52 universes, and it tells you what they all are. And this is Grant Morrison's a genius and a fruitcake, and he designed. Well, they designed all this, and in this, like there was a big controversy over whether Michael B. Jordan was going to play Superman.
Mm-hmm.
there is a black Superman. It's in this book. You know,
Cool.
I don't have a problem with it. It's not
Nope.
going to happen now, obviously, but you know, I was one of the ones that say, no, that's fine. You know, I think when you create something for a film, as long as it's got some grounding in a comic book that's good, you can't really go wrong, really. But I'm digressing now. But essentially, what I'm saying is, one thing that DC have always done really well is they've embraced the multiversity and the multiple universes. Marvel. Do you know what the Marvel main universe is called?
No.
It's called Earth 616.
Oh yeah, I'd heard of that before. Yeah.
And do you know who came up with that number as being the main Earth?
No.
Marvel. Alan Moore.
Oh, okay.
And it's funny because you've got Alan Moore, who's a magician and comic book writer, and you've got Grant Morrison, who's a magician and a comic book writer, and they both compete with each other, and there's a bit of a rivalry. And Alan Moore's the one that did it for Marvel, and Grant Morrison's the one that did it for DC. Who you know, they said no, there is like all these different Earths, and this is the number, and this is for DC, it's always been Earth Prime, and then you've got Earth 1, Earth 2, Earth 3, you know, Earth 47, Earth 52. And then for Marvel, you know, they just give them a random number, and sometimes it'll be a number based on like the year it's set, or it'll just be a completely random number. And Alan Moore used the number 616 because that is meant to be the real translation of the number of the devil from the Bible before it was mistranslated into being 666. You know, and just daft things like that.
Yeah.
But again, I'm just potentially talking up my ass here.
No, it's cool though. It's cool. There's so much in depth. You know, there's lots of little Easter eggs and things that if people want to read up on it, I'm sure they will be able to. Anthony's asked if we can keep going for a few more hours because he loves Graham's knowledge. Well, Anthony, we'll definitely have Graham back on shortly. We have some ideas for some future streams. Obviously, we will try and keep up to date with what is going on in the comic book world and do these streams whenever we can do. But thank you for joining us. Thank you for making the time.
Before we wind up, Dom, can I ask you which of these products are you most looking forward to yourself?
Swamp Thing, 100%.
Swamp Thing,
100%. Yeah.
What about second?
Hang on a sec. I would say, based on your discussion and enthusiasm, The Brave and the Bold.
How about third?
Probably The Authority.
Ooh, good choices.
And I've never even seen The Authority. I've never even seen it, never even heard of it, but your enthusiasm for it has me intrigued. Off topic, but I'll ask The City by James Herbert for Christmas. What is that? I don't know what that means. What is The City by James Herbert? Thank you, Anthony, for bringing that to me at the end of our comic book stream. I'm going to have to find out what that is now. That is a novel. It is... that looks cool. I'll have to have a look at it. It's from 1994. There you go. The City by James Herbert, guys, and Ian Miller, who's the illustrator in that as well. For those that are interested in that, that is off topic.
I could be wrong, but I think that just got a hardcover re-release. If I'm thinking the same thing. But I'm not an encyclopedic knowledge of all things comic books and novels.
You are our resident. You are our resident expert. I realise you are not. You may not be an expert in the wider world, but you're certainly more knowledgeable than myself, and that is why we have you on here to talk about these poignant issues in the comic book world. James Gunn has a busy period ahead, and this is going to be a very exciting time for comic book fans.
I was initially a bit annoyed that James Gunn was wiping the slate clean, and when you watch his announcement, it does feel a little bit like, you know, you should watch Blue Beetle and you should watch The Flash and you should watch Aquaman and Shazam, but they don't matter anymore. And I thought that's a bit, you know, but I do think because of Aquaman and Shazam being Peter Safran's babies, they will carry on. I do think that Jason Momoa will end up playing both Aquaman and Lobo.
Right.
Or we could do an entire video about Lobo.
Yeah, I'm interested. Again, I know that character through video games, not anything else, but I know he's a quality comic book anti-hero. So certainly down the road, maybe we'll do a...
Written for a very long time by Alan Grant, one of the best comic book writers to ever come out of Scotland. and that's including Grant Morrison and Mac Miller. Yeah, phenomenal. I love Lobo very dearly, and I would love to see it done properly. There was a great episode of Justice League, the animated series featuring Lobo. You need to watch it, man. You really need to. And Batman the animated series, if you've not seen that, and Batman Beyond.
I saw the original one when I was a kid, the original Batman animated series, but
Yeah.
certainly, I'm sure we'll be back again very soon. Graham will be back with us as well. Thank you, Graham, for giving up your time this evening. I appreciate it, and those that have been with us, because we've certainly had a few people with us. Thank you very much for staying with us, and thank you for engaging as well. And for those that come back to this and get to the end, we appreciate you as well. Thank you so much for watching. Please do support us to grow as well. Graham, it's been a pleasure. Is there anything you'd like to add before we finish? Pressure is on.
Oh, I don't know. The next DC film we've got coming out is Shazam 2. What do you reckon it'll be like? Do you reckon it'll be good?
Nah, I wasn't a fan of Shazam.
Really?
More for the boys. Emma's boys enjoyed it, you know.
I thought it was great. I took my kids to see it, and
Well done.
Alice loved it.
Well done. I'm just not, you know.
Yeah. I
like my dark anti-heroes. You know, I grew up a massive goth, so you know, give me a Swamp Thing.
But do you not think Mark Strong was a really good villain in Shazam?
Yeah, I mean there was some good points to it. Like I say, but I just, the character didn't really grab me. That whole character, the whole character stuff doesn't really get me very much. Doesn't do anything for me. But Mark Strong is a great actor. I recognize him in so many things.
I've only just got used to calling that character Shazam, because for years he was Captain Marvel, and obviously DC have tried to distance themselves from the name Marvel, so they've renamed him to Shazam, which never made sense to me, because you know Shazam is the wizard's name, and he shouts the wizard's name, and he becomes Captain Marvel, and it's the Marvel family, you know. And to me, it just doesn't make any sense. And when I read like the older material, even like more modern material, but it's still a little bit of like 52 where Captain Marvel's in it. I'm used to calling him Captain Marvel, and I go back to calling him Captain Marvel, and I'm not used to calling him Shazam. I think it's weird when you do call him Shazam. But the new 52 onwards stuff of Shazam is written by Jeff Johns. And again, I cannot stress enough how good Jeff Johns is as a writer. He's such a capable, brilliant writer. Really, really good. Dark Side War was great. His Green Lantern run, his Flash run, his, you know, JSA. Like, he's done 3 books of JSA, Justice Society of America. And combined, you're talking 4,500 pages, you know, of just this, like, Earth 2 alternative sort of, you know, weird other Justice League where it's all, you know, Stargirl and, you know, do you know what I mean? It's just weird stuff.
Yeah.
And you watch his like the Stargirl TV series. Have you seen that?
No, I've steered away from it. I've steered away from that.
I actually think it's really good, and I think you should watch it with Emma's boys. I think that they probably like it. I know it's like it's seemingly aimed at girls, but it's not. It's actually quite good, and there's a good few payoffs in it, and it is all right. It's worth watching it. Jeff Johns is golden, and anything he touches is good, in my opinion.
I'll definitely give it a go, man. Thank you very much for your knowledge once again. Anthony loves your knowledge, and we'll definitely have you back. That's a wrestling point, and we don't do wrestling on here, only sometimes. We do wrestling over on Gimme a Hull. Yeah, go and subscribe to our wrestling podcast when you get a second. And thank you so much for watching this. We're across Soundsphere, and the Soundsphere Comics channel just launched as well with this live stream, so we appreciate any time you can give us. And thank you, Graham, for your knowledge. And I want you to go get some sleep, even though I don't think you're going to be able to with all that Red Bull you just drunk.
I had 2 hours sleep.
Man, go get some rest. Guys, it's been a pleasure. We've reviewed James Gunn's DC Slate and the projects. We've been through them all. We've dissected them, whether Graham's looking forward to them, whether I'm looking forward to them. We've had some comments as well. So hope you've enjoyed it. We've certainly enjoyed bringing it to you. And if you come back to this afterwards, do drop a like on the video. It helps us out in the old algorithm. And I'm sure we'll be back very soon, won't we, Graham?
before we end, I do want to point out as well that this isn't a complete list of stuff that's coming out for this first phase of the new DCU. There is other stuff as well.
Yeah.
I don't know how common knowledge that is, but there is more stuff to come that's not been announced.
We'll probably review that as well.
Yeah, there's more stuff coming, and the overall phase is called Gods and Monsters.
Ooh,
and so far, all that's been announced is one monster.
All right. Well, let's.
I'll leave you with that. My final thought: the only monster we've got is Swamp Thing, and it's called Gods and Monsters, plural.
Okay, cool. Well, that's exciting. So maybe we'll be back sooner than you think, Graham. Are we going to do this again next week?
If you want to, do you want to do another one next week?
Well, let's. Well, that's it. Maybe there's some more news. Wherever there's news in the comic book world,
it's going to come out anytime soon. I think it'll be another few months. I suspect it'll be once. Certainly once the Flash is out.
Cool. Well, that has had
what we should do is a Flash prediction video. What's going to happen in the Flash?
Well, I'm just impressed it's coming out with all that drama that's been around it. But we'll talk about that another time. In our potential Flash predictions video if we do.
One last thing I did want to say. I'm really sorry. I know you keep winding it up, and I'm really sorry. I did say earlier on that I wanted to comment on the Flash and the casting for Flashpoint and Flashpoint Batman and Joker.
Okay.
Right. And I think this is, if it's not included in the Flash, I'm going to be very upset because it was specifically really good casting by Zack Snyder. I think, like, for a lot of people don't like Zack Snyder's style, but his casting is on point, in my opinion, or for the most part. I know not everyone likes Jesse Eisenberg as Lex Luthor, but whatever. Are you familiar with Flashpoint at all?
No, I know of it. I know it's been touched on in the cartoon world and the TV series world more.
Right. If I said to you, Flashpoint Batman, would you know who that is?
Well, I know about the series, but I wouldn't know who it was.
Right. I'm going to spoil it mildly for you. In Flashpoint, when Barry Allen buggers up the timeline, when Bruce Wayne's parents get shot, that is changed, right?
Okay.
And it's actually Bruce Wayne that gets shot in Flashpoint, right? And what you get is Thomas Wayne becomes Batman, and Martha Wayne loses a screw upstairs and becomes Joker.
No way.
Yes way. And if you watch Batman v Superman: Dawn of Justice, you've seen it, haven't you?
I've not seen that.
You've not seen Batman v Superman?
You mean the movie? Sorry, I didn't. Yeah, the full title. Yeah.
Right. That casting was specifically chosen for a reason. That, like, when you see Thomas and Martha Wayne, that's not a cameo. That's foreshadowing for what we were going to get. Can you remember who plays Martha and Thomas?
No.
Are you going to look it up?
I am going to look it up. Hang on.
Look it up.
Batman.
You'll see why I'm so annoyed that we're not getting it, or potentially not getting it.
Hang on. Oh, Lauren Cohen. Wow. Yeah.
Maggie from Walking Dead.
Yeah, it is. No way.
And look who's playing Thomas, or who played Thomas Wayne in Batman v Superman.
Hang on. I've got hang on. So I'm gonna Google it because I'm just like, hang on, Thomas.
I'm waiting for your reaction in real time because I know who it is and I'm excited, even though it's not going to happen.
Hang on. In the film, it's taken me to a bloody trivia. Oh, is that bloody Jeffrey Dean?
Yeah.
No, of course, bloody hell.
You watch it again, and it's Jeffrey Dean Morgan and I've forgotten the name.
Wow.
Maggie from Walking Dead as Batman's parents. And if you watch, if you just find a clip of the Flashpoint animated movie, you'll see how it happens. You know, in the Flashpoint reality, you know, the guy shoots Bruce Wayne instead. Thomas Wayne goes on to be a very dark, gun-wielding lunatic Batman, and Martha loses it and becomes the new Joker. And it's, this was planned by Zack Snyder. We were going to be getting this. It was all confirmed. Like it was potentially going to be in one of the Justice League movies. And that is so upsetting. And I really, really hope that it'll at least happens in the Flash movie, because it is essentially a Flashpoint movie in everything but name.
That's cool, mate. See that is good that we carried on, because I'm gonna have to do some research now. That would have been amazing.
It would have been amazing. There is no way they were picked for them roles as a cameo. That there is more to it than that.
Yeah, I think so.
Can you imagine Negan as a gun-wielding badass Batman?
Yeah, that'd be awesome. Yeah,
we have been done dirty big time by not having that.
And Diane Lane as well, again, as the female Joker. That'd be wonderful.
Like, in the comic, immediately after Bruce Wayne gets shot, she just she goes crazy, and like Thomas goes to check on her, and she just starts laughing, and she's got this big grin, and she's crying, and she's screaming with laughter, and she just goes insane, and she becomes the new Joker. It's great. And that is phenomenal casting, and we've not seen it. It's been it must be nearly 10 years now. No, it's 2016, wasn't it? So we're not far off.
No, that's
the 10-year mark since Batman v Superman came out, and that is the biggest crime of that film.
That's crazy.
We were teased with greatness, and we've not been able to see it.
Yeah, that is crazy. Anthony wants to talk about Batman 2 or Joker 2. I feel like when we've got a bit more information about those films, me and Graham will come back to discuss it. I'm sure they'll be very good, and of course, part of the other universe, DC's other universe, the Elseworld. There you go. I've got it. There you go.
The Elseworld.
There you go. I got it. So we will discuss those. We'll come back on stream. We'll come back to discuss those films when we have a little bit more information about what's going down. But Anthony, thank you for commenting and your persistent comments. I appreciate trying to get Graham.
Thank you, Anthony.
Yeah,
and Andrew and anyone else who's watching.
It's been wonderful, and obviously, once again, your enthusiasm, Graham, is much appreciated. By Anthony and by others. So we're lucky. Does that mean I got to subscribe? What, you're not subscribed to Soundsphere? Jesus Christ, Anthony. Some friends you are. I could do with it if you want to subscribe. Yeah, it'd be great. And if you haven't liked the video, please do. It helps with the algorithm.
I subscribe because I'm cool.
There you go. Thank you guys. Thank you guys so much.
You like me?
Well, yeah. You're very cool, Graham.
Cool.
Andrew's still with us. He's still with us. Oh, man. Thank you so much for making the time for us. Appreciate it.
Andrew is a friend of Christian.
Well, we're very, very lucky to have you, Andrew. Thank you so much for for spending time with us. And obviously, a lot of wonderful memories with Christian as well. Myself and Graham have. So yeah, lovely to see you. Lovely to see you with us. It means a lot. Doing these. We're a small channel relatively, and we do these things because we love it and we want to have a conversation. Fundamentally, I want to hang out with Graham. I love hanging out with Graham. Emma's here as well. Oh, that's lovely. There you go. Yeah. So see, we're very lucky really to have the audience, and thank you to those that that come back to this afterwards. If you stay with us this long, we appreciate you greatly. Please do share your thoughts. And I'm subscribed to Soundsphere, just not your Comic Sphere or your other 50 YouTube pages. Well, get subscribing, man. Get subscribing. The Comic Sphere we're going to be cross-breeding the channels for now while we try and grow that one. So yeah, thank you so much. And Anthony loves to hang out. Well, what a wonderful note to end on. Graham, thank you for your knowledge and your comic books. Good luck putting them all back up on that shelf. And we will plan the next one. Looking forward to it, mate.
Yeah.
What we haven't got an outro, so give me a whole. Yeah, we have an outro. We do the jazz hands. What should we do?
Just smile, wave, and press the button that plays the intro, but as an outro.
Yeah, there you go. Our wonderful Comic Sphere outro. Bye, guys. See you later. Thanks for watching. Bye. Bye.